Well, joining me now is Maleiha Malik, the Executive Director of the Protect Education in Insecurity and Conflict program at the Education Above All Foundation. Now, the Foundation's al-Fakhoura program rebuilt Fakhoura School after Israel destroyed it as well back in 2009. Maleiha, thank you for your time. I understand that Education Above All didn't only rebuild the school in 2009, but also again in 2014. You even have a scholarship program for displaced youth named after the school. Can you describe for me and for our viewers what the school means to the community there?
I mean, as you've said, the most recent attack with 200 people dead and countless others wounded in a school that was acting as a shelter is the most grave attack that there's been. 2009, on this, there was an attack on a school where 30 to 40 died, and again in hostilities and the war in 2014. I think symbolically, al-Fakhoura was founded as a program of education above all, as a symbol of hope, and as a symbol of the fact that education is at the heart of building justice and peace in Gaza. So to see once again, you know, in such a short period of time, the destruction of this school is symbolic, really, of what is happening in Palestine. It's an absolute tragedy.
Well, as we've been hearing, I mean, that the schools in the Gaza Strip right now can't even function as schools. They're all predominantly acting as shelters. This was an UNRWA shelter. I mean, the UN has come out and also said a few weeks back that they can no longer offer protection to civilians there under the UN flag. Now, your organisation has condemned Israel's, and I'm quoting here, pattern of systematic and deliberate targeting of civilians and vital civilian infrastructure. So what can you do if schools and civilian infrastructure are being deliberately targeted? What tools does the international community have to try to deal with this?
I mean, that's a very important distinction, that schools aren't functioning in Gaza, but they're acting as shelters. And that really raises the stakes, because whereas a school is protected anyway, when a school is acting as a shelter during wartime, it is absolutely protected by international humanitarian law. It's an absolute bright line rule that it shouldn't be targeted. In fact, in 2009, when the foundation established al-Fakhoura, it also established a pioneering program called Protect Education in Insecurity and Conflict. And we work on international law, justice, accountability. And one of the tools that we can use is international humanitarian law, because international humanitarian law is binding on all of us. It's the branch on which we all sit, irrespective of race, religion, nationality. And it's this flagrant breach of international humanitarian law that I think is most significant coming out of this crisis. And I think in terms of a solution to this, I think that what we'd like to see is, you've just seen on your programme the fact that WHO had access to Al-Shifa Hospital. We'd like to see...
Very brief access.
Very brief access, but I think we should have a similar focus on establishing the facts around the bombardment of civilian shelters and schools that are acting as shelters in Gaza.
Of course, but accountability and the application of international humanitarian law, I mean, we've seen so many violations throughout the last 6 weeks. Accountability requires political will.
It requires political will, and I think that there are political actors who can stand together. We've seen a number of important legal advances, including at the International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court as well. And I think that even before political will, actually what those victims, the survivors, in the package you just showed before I spoke, are saying is they want their voices to be heard, they want truth. So what we'd like to see is an independent commission that establishes the truth of what's going on. It establishes accountability, it engages those victims, those survivors, to hear their voices. And I mean, one of the survivors says, where is the UN? Where is the global community? I think that we have precedents. The UN established similar tribunals in Rwanda, in Bosnia, in Cambodia. So I think we'd like to see something similar now, given the gravity of violations of international law and the scale of the massacres that are taking place. 200 people in a school. That woman you just heard said, I was bombed in my home. I went to the school, and now they're bombing us here.
And so many women and children amongst the dead. Maleiha Malik from the Education Above All Foundation, thank you so much for joining us here on Al Jazeera.
Thank you.